big guns to boom inside the house. Track the action only on NDTV. Forget 10,000 steps. What if just 7,000 a day was all it took to live longer and healthier? A major new study published in the Lancet Public Health has found that walking around 7,000 steps a day is strongly associated with better health and a lower risk of dying early. Researchers analyzed data from over 160,000 adults and found that people who walk approximately 7,000 steps a day had significantly lower risks for a wide range of chronic diseases. Compared to those who walk just 2,000 steps daily, these individuals saw a 47% reduction in all-cause mortality, 25% drop in cardiovascular disease, 14% lower risk of type 2 diabetes, 22% reduction in depression, 38% decline in dementia risk, 28% fewer falls, and a 6% reduction in cancer risk. Unlike earlier studies that mostly focused on heart health or death rates, this is the first major research effort to comprehensively examine the impact of daily steps on multiple health outcomes. The review included 57 studies, of which 31 were analyzed in detail through meta-analysis, making this the most extensive data set to date on how walking affects health. Interestingly, the study also shows that even 2,000 steps per day provides better health outcomes than being inactive. While benefits for some conditions like heart disease continue to rise beyond 7,000 steps, for most other outcomes, the gain started to plateau after this point. The authors argue that 7,000 steps per day may be a more realistic and achievable target for many people, compared to the commonly cited 10,000 step goal, which was never based on scientific evidence. They say that step count is a simple and effective way to measure physical activity, and these findings could help shape future public health recommendations. However, researchers also caution that for conditions like cancer and dementia, more studies are needed. They note that many studies didn't fully account for confounding factors like age or frailty, which could influence the results. Still, the message is clear: walking more, especially up to 7,000 steps a day, can significantly improve overall health.
We are here with Salman Khan, who has told us a lot about bikes. Can you tell me, Salman, when did your love for bikes start?
I think since very early age.
You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's dive right into the top headlines you need to know. The United States and the European Union reached a tariff deal after a brief meeting between President Donald Trump and European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. Thai and Cambodian leaders will meet in Malaysia today for talks to end hostilities, a spokesperson for the Thai Prime Minister's office has said. Israel has announced it will pause fighting in some parts of Gaza each day to allow Palestinians to access aid amid growing international condemnation over the territory's humanitarian crisis. The establishment of aid corridors and resumed airdrops come as the New York Times reports that Israel's military found no proof Hamas stole United Nations provided aid. Bangladesh's chief advisor, Professor Muhammad Yunus, has renewed his call for Malaysia to support Bangladesh's bid to become a member of the ASEAN, local media is reporting. Wildfires that have engulfed Turkey for weeks have threatened the country's fourth largest city, causing more than 1,700 people to flee their homes and leaving a firefighter dead. Let's begin with a big focus. Well, Donald Trump has said he believes that both Thailand and Cambodia wanted to settle their differences after he told the leaders of both countries that he would not conclude trade deals with them unless they ended their fighting. So today, Thai and Cambodian leaders will meet in Malaysia for talks to end hostilities. This is what a spokesperson for the Thai Prime Minister's office has confirmed. But the deadly border dispute has killed at least 35 people and displaced more than 218,000. Let's take a look at what's been happening.
Malaysia is set to host peace talks between Thailand and Cambodia amid their deadliest border clashes in over a decade.
I can confirm that as it has already been the news issued by the Malaysian side. As ASEAN chair, Malaysia has offered to host the meeting.
What began as a simmering territorial dispute over ancient temples has spiraled into full-scale hostilities. More than 30 lives lost, over 200,000 displaced, and still artillery fire echoes across villages. Thailand's acting Prime Minister, Umtham Vechayachai, will lead his delegation to Malaysia. Cambodia has confirmed Prime Minister Hun Manet will be there too. The talks are scheduled to take place in Malaysia at 3 p.m. local time. This follows weeks of intensifying cross-border strikes, including shelling near UNESCO heritage sites like Preah Vihear and Cambodian troops mobilizing long-range rockets. There's global pressure to pause the violence. U.S. President Donald Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim have both backed a ceasefire plan. The disputed 817-kilometer border, especially the ancient temple zones, remains a geopolitical power keg.
ตกใจคือไอ้ที่เรากำบังกลัวว่ามันไม่ปลอดภัยในรัศมีระเบิดของมันนะว่ามันจะมุดไปตรงไหนมันไม่ทันเลยก็ต้องพยายามทำตัวให้มันต่ำที่สุดแต่มันไม่โดนถ้ามันโดนจังก็ไม่รอดหรอก
With both sides blaming each other and accusing the other of shelling civilians, Monday's talks may be the only diplomatic off-ramp before the violence deepens. The world watches as Thailand and Cambodia arrive at the table. Whether they choose peace or prolong the crisis, this may shape the region for years to come. Rhythm Arcadia's report for NDTV World.
Meanwhile, the big international headline we're tracking, Donald Trump has announced a deal with the EU to end 4 months of difficult negotiations between Washington and Brussels and also avert a damaging transatlantic trade war, imposing a 15% import tariff on most EU goods, which is actually half the threatened rate. The European Commission chief, Ursula von der Leyen, said, "We have a deal," after a 40-minute meeting with Trump at his golf resort in Scotland, where the US president is on holiday for the weekend. Now, under the agreement, the US will actually levy a 15% baseline tariff. This is for most EU exports to the US, limiting a higher tariff. However, the rate is higher than before Trump came to power, and a 50% tariff remains on steel exports, which is a setback for that industry, as you can imagine. There was actually initial confusion over pharmaceuticals after Trump said the sector would not be included. But Trump went on to call it a giant deal, while von der Leyen hailed it as a win for stability and predictability. As far as reactions from the bloc are concerned, you must note that the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz welcomed the deal, and Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni also said it was positive that a trade deal had been reached, but added that she needed to see the details. Now, key sectors that are likely to be impacted are energy, auto, defense, These sectors are expected to see immediate impacts, in fact. As far as Italy is concerned, you know that it's one of the biggest European exporters to the U.S. But Trump, by the way, retains the ability to increase the tariffs in future if European countries do not live up to their investment commitments. We have reactions from the U.S. President Donald Trump and the EU Commission chief lined up for you. Listen in.
They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion. All of the countries will be opened up to trade with the United States at zero tariff. We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games and maybe not making a deal at all. I think it's, I'm going to let you say, but I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much.
We have a deal. We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It's 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive. So it's a good deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
With tough negotiations. I knew it at the beginning, and it was indeed very tough, but we came to good conclusions for both sides.
So while Trump has announced this deal, it imposes a 15% baseline tariff on most EU goods, which is half the previously threatened rate, but still higher than pre-2017 levels. To Bangladesh now, where Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus has renewed his call for Malaysia to support Bangladesh's bid to become a member of the ASEAN. The Chief Advisor hoped that Malaysia, which is the current chair of ASEAN, will take a proactive role in granting Bangladesh's application to become sectoral dialogue partner of ASEAN and in turn become a full member of the regional body. Switching tracks, at an event in Tamil Nadu held to honour Chola Emperor Rajendra Chola, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that Operation Sindoor had demonstrated to the world how India would respond if its sovereignty was attacked, adding that the cross-border military offensive had instilled a new sense of self-confidence across the country. In fact, he added Operation Sindoor proved that there is no safe haven for terrorists or their masters. Listen in to Prime Minister Modi's remarks.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने दिखा दिया है कि भारत के दुश्मनों के लिए, आतंकवादियों के लिए अब कोई ठिकाना सुरक्षित नहीं है। और आज जब मैं हेलीपैड से यहां आ रहा था, 3-4 किलोमीटर का रास्ता काटते हुए, और अचानक मैंने देखा एक बड़ा रोड शो बन गया और हर एक के मुंह से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का जय जयकार हो रहा था। ये पूरे देश में ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने एक नई चेतना जगाई है, नया आत्मविश्वास पैदा किया है और दुनिया को भी भारत की शक्ति को स्वीकार करना पड़ रहा है।
In other news, wildfires that have engulfed Turkey for weeks threaten the country's fourth largest city, forcing more than 1,700 people to flee their homes and leaving one firefighter dead. Meanwhile, firefighters elsewhere in the region, including Greece and Montenegro, were also battling blazes fed by unusually high temperatures, dry conditions and strong winds. Dozens of severe wildfires have hit the country daily since late June, with the government actually declaring 2 western provinces disaster areas. Take a look at the finer details.
A rescue mission turned fatal. In northwestern Turkey, 10 frontline heroes, firefighters and rescuers lost their lives as flames closed in faster than they could escape. Minister Ibrahim Yomakli said that the men were battling fierce blaze in Ekişehir province when the wind suddenly shifted and the fire surrounded them. 5 forestry workers, 5 Akut rescue workers, all killed in action. One injured firefighter, barely conscious, could be heard whispering to his colleagues, "I need cold water, pour water all over me." 14 others were hospitalized. The death toll from Turkey's wildfires now stand at 13. And the danger isn't over. New fires erupted along Turkey's Mediterranean coast. In Antalya, flames crept dangerously close to homes. Residents fled as fire cut off major coastal road. Further east, Manavgat braced for the worst. The government has declared Izmir and Bilecik disaster zones, just one step below a national emergency. According to Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya, 120 neighborhoods have been evacuated since 27th of June. More than 12,000 emergency workers are now on the ground fighting a firestorm made worse by scorching heat, bone-dry forests and relentless winds. 10 brave men died doing what they do best, saving lives, protecting land. And as Turkey's skies fill with smoke and sirens wail into the night, the battle is now a race against nature itself. With Ridhima Kedia, Rika Roy for NDTV World.
The updates continue in a moment right here on NDTV. Slipping into a very quick break now.
Namaste, hello, and welcome to the Indian Abroad on NDTV. I'm your host, Priyanka Deo. The topic of the day, Trump's tariff games explained. In most negotiations, people assume success comes from persuasion or compromise at the table. But those who understand game theory know the real strategy starts long before the first conversation. Game theory is the study of strategic decision-making. It helps you anticipate your counterparts' likely responses, limit their choices, and frame the game in your favor from the start. Now, Trump's strategy is setting the rules before the game really starts. One of the clearest real-world examples of game theory in action was Donald Trump's, or I should say is Donald Trump.
Well, there'll be no more extensions on tariff deadlines, and they will go into force as scheduled on the 1st of August. This is what U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has said. I'll tell you why this is so significant, because since January, the world has gotten accustomed to U.S. President Donald Trump announcing tariffs and then reversing them, pulling them back at the last moment, or pausing them shortly after going into effect. Meanwhile, a man has been arrested for causing disturbance on an EasyJet flight from London's Luton Airport to Glasgow. A video that has gone viral on social media shows the man shouting, "I'm going to bomb the plane." He was also heard saying, "Death to America, death to Trump." A male passenger was then seen tackling him to the ground. Police boarded the aircraft after it landed in Glasgow and arrested the man. Just take a look.
Oh my God. You got to sit down. Don't move. Fucking on the plane. Going to bomb the plane. Dead to America, dead to Trump.
China has unveiled a global action plan for artificial intelligence just days after Washington released an AI policy roadmap explicitly aimed at securing U.S. dominance over Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Qiang proposed a new international organization to champion cooperation on AI. One analyst said the two camps are now being formed. While Beijing is voicing support for a multilateral approach, the US wants to build its own camp, very much targeting the rise of China. Meanwhile, Israel has announced it would pause fighting in some parts of Gaza each day to allow Palestinians to access aid amid growing international condemnation over the territory's humanitarian crisis. The establishment of aid corridors and resumed airdrops come as the New York Times has reported that Israel's military found no proof that Hamas stole United Nations provided aid. The Israeli government made the decision hastily and in a state of panic. This is what many analysts are arguing. It realized it is no closer to a hostage deal. The U.S. ditched ceasefire talks in Qatar last week, while accounts of starving Palestinians have turned global public opinion further against Israel. By the way, the United Kingdom and Germany, they are weighing toughening their stance on the conflict after France moved to recognize a Palestinian state.
After months of blocking aid into the Gaza Strip, there is finally a sliver of hope. The Israeli military has begun airdropping humanitarian aid and announced that it will now allow the United Nations to move aid trucks into Gaza. The IDF also said it will conduct a local tactical pause of military activity in densely populated areas of Gaza every day from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Despite these moves, the IDF maintains that there is no famine in Gaza, a claim sharply contested by global aid groups. The decision follows mounting international pressure, with multiple aid organizations accusing Israel of weaponizing starvation against Gaza's civilian population.
Well, this is a start, but we need to make sure that people who are innocent, including the young boy who people will have seen that image of, just breaks your heart. A 1-year-old boy is not a Hamas fighter, and the civilian casualties and death in Gaza is completely unacceptable. It's completely indefensible. My government has been very consistent in calling for a ceasefire. We've been consistent on calling out the terrorists in Hamas and saying that the hostages should be released. But we have rules of engagement, and they're there for a reason.
Yet even as aid trickles in, it's coming at a deadly cost. According to the UN Human Rights Commissioner, hundreds have died trying to access food since the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation began operations in May. The UN has slammed the current aid distribution model as a sadistic death trap, alleging snipers fire indiscriminately on desperate civilians.
جبت الطحين للأولاد قسما بالله إلى كم يوم ما عند طحين خشينا على الموت وعند الدبابات وشفنا الجنود وبطخ علينا وضرب علينا القنابل الضوئية والرصاص طلع الشباب كل كيس طحين دم كل كيس طحين اللي مع الشباب دم سامع إحنا بنجيب هذا بس عشان صغارنا إحنا بنتحمل بس عشان الصغار مش معانا.
Meanwhile, hopes for a ceasefire have dimmed further after the U.S. withdrew its delegation from talks in Qatar. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said Hamas has shown a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire. President Donald Trump echoed this sentiment, backing Israel's continued military operation.
Aid is finally trickling into Gaza as, under international pressure, Israel has made certain concessions. But even for many, a bag of flour also comes soaked in blood. Now the bigger question is that whether all these steps will lead to a permanent relief, or this is just a temporary pause into a humanitarian catastrophe in making for the people of Gaza. In Delhi, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Well, in other news, Tata Consultancy Services plans to lay off approximately 2% of its workforce, impacting over 12,000 employees due to macro uncertainties and also artificial intelligence-driven disruptions. This decision follows a decline in job additions across major IT firms and strategic initiatives by TCS to realign its workforce. Puneet Javeri from NDTV Profit has more on this.
TCS has decided to cut 12,000 jobs out of its workforce, and they've mentioned that this is amid a demand slump. They've also gone on to say that this is mainly impacting the middle as well as the senior management at this particular point of time, and said that the added capacity didn't pan out because of a slump in demand that was seen in Q1 as well as leading up to that time frame as well. They've also said that the hiring was done essentially in anticipation of recovery, which did not happen, and the outlook for the second half also seems to be tepid as well. They've also gone on to say that the hiring which was done failed to convert into revenues, and hence this necessary step, as what they've called it. Now, the company says that AI hasn't triggered any of these layoffs, and that's because this is in middle as well as senior management, but the cost control remains one of the key top focus. But this seemed to be the writing on the wall, because even in Q1, while the hiring number for TCS was just a tad about 5,000 employees, it has been tepid over the last 4 to 8 quarters. For the other IT companies, if we take a look, Infosys actually just added about 210 employees in Q1 of FY26 compared to the last quarter, and we saw a similar number play out for the other IT majors as well. They've also mentioned that TCS is planning to hire roughly 42,000 freshers in FY26. They have a total workforce of about 613,000 as of now, and hence, despite adding freshers at the lower end of the spectrum, they are seeing some kind of cuts, at least in middle management, and hence there seems to be a concern not just led by AI but based on overcapacity as well.
Moving on, India and the United States are preparing to launch the NISAR satellite. It's the world's single most expensive civilian Earth imaging satellite, made at a cost of $1.3 billion. The satellite will be launched from Sriharikota on Wednesday. It's a landmark mission in climate science and disaster preparedness. This is what Dr. Paul Rosen has said. He's a scientist actually working at NASA. He told my colleague Pallav Bagla a lot more. Listen in.
I'm here at the California Institute of Technology, or Caltech, the famous university which also runs the Jet Propulsion Laboratory part of NASA.
So it's very much a climate mission. We're also studying the ecosystems, wetlands, carbon in biomass in forests and agricultural areas, again, to understand the exchange of carbon from the ground up into the atmosphere, and again, related to climate. So very much a climate mission. Another objective is in the area of solid earth and natural hazards. So we're trying to understand the motions of the earth below the crust as they're affected by earthquake faults, volcanoes, and landslides, all the kinds of hazards that affect huge populations around the world. So the science we're trying to accomplish is understanding the earth as a system and making things better for humans, saving lives, as you say.
India wants to use the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle Mark II. And India, we call that launch vehicle the naughty boy. Is that a point of worry? When you started off, there was no launch vehicle Mark III. So is a launch on geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle Mark II a point of worry?
Well, any launch is always risky. That's true for any launch vehicle made by any nation. But we had a set of criteria agreed to with between NASA and ISRO as to what would be considered a successful set of steps.
Meanwhile, over in Manchester, fighting India held on for a thrilling draw against England in the fourth test, keeping the series alive. Despite trailing by 311 runs, India staged a stunning comeback thanks to a 203-run partnership between Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar. Captain Shubman Gill led from the front with yet another century, his fourth of the series, by the way, becoming India's top run scorer against England in a single series. Listen in to what Gill had to say.
Extremely pleased with the batting effort. The past couple of days, I think we were put under a lot of pressure, but I think the way we responded, especially after losing those two early wickets, never easy, but very, very brave effort.
On to Indian chess grandmaster Vishwanathan Anand speaking to NDTV now. He explains how India broke the Chinese wall. I'm not going to give further details. Listen in.
First thing first, I'll have to ask you about what Garry Kasparov said. He said, Vishy's children are on the loose. How do you react to that? And he described this whole generation of chess players as your children.
I'm very flattered. I'm not really going to argue with him, but let's give credit to the girls, especially for what they've done. And really, both of them have shown in this knockout tournament and what they're capable of. And I'm very happy that they're both qualifying for the candidates with this result. And we are guaranteed the gold. The gold will come to India this time, regardless of the result. And that's very exciting.
Gold and silver both. Please tell us a little bit about both these women, Koneru Hampi, 38-year-old, and Divya Deshmukh, exactly half her age, 19. Both of them are locking horns. And how different or contrasting style of play are they bringing to the table?
Yes, well, your question more or less states the main point, that Koneru Hampi was our leader for many, many years. She's been playing at the top for decades now. But she took a couple of years off for personal reasons, and but showed that this amazing comeback, and she's world women's rapid champion. She won the Grand Prix in Pune earlier this year, and she's fighting for first place here. It's a remarkable second act. So she never fully stopped, but it feels like that she's showing how you can motivate yourself and compete with girls who are half her age.
Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, the updates continue.
आप एक गुंडे कैसे बिहेव कर रहे हो सर? मेरी आप तो एक गायकवाड is running away from NDTV's questions.
That issue is not before the High Command. It was not discussed so far.
Kolhapuri couples costing $1,300.
The noise we made finally got heard, and it's so nice that somebody took action on it.
Pictures and videos of women that were taken in the Bengaluru metro, now on Church Street and other prominent places in Bengaluru. We managed to arrest both of them.
We are bringing you now, for the very first time, is that the Air India preliminary crash report is out.
This 15-page report into 10 key findings of what really is being said in this probe report.
What's reporting without impact? NDTV 24/7.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Some say sport is a matter of life and death. The truth is, it is far more serious than that. Sport is about ecstasy and agony, about pain and suffering, about joy and much more. Some say there's no one better to tell these stories. So here I am. Join me, Boria Majumdar, on India's #1 news network.
A very good morning. This is The Breakfast Show. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vava. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including a washout of the first week of the monsoon session. Today is the day when the debate on Operation Sindoor and the Pahalgam attack is going to begin in the lower house. We're going to get you all the details. But first, let's get you the headlines. Close of our discussion over Operation Sindoor, new self-confidence in India. The Prime Minister is saying that just before the key discussion. Do remember, this is going to be a 16-hour discussion as the ruling alliance and the opposition will lock horns over the two issues framed around national security and foreign policy imperatives. Supreme Court to hear Justice Verma's plea in the judge cash round. You remember, lots of money was recovered from the residents during Holi at the residence of Justice Verma. His plea coming up in court today. Bihar's ballot battle in Supreme Court. The top court will be hearing petitions against voter list revision, a demand being made by the opposition. And tech major TCS to cut over 12,000 jobs. TCS is India's largest IT services provider. It has decided to downsize. 12,000 people set to lose their jobs. And it is the United States and the EU that have now struck a deal with 15% tariff. This is in order to avert trade war. And massive row over India-Pakistan, the Asia Cup fixture. Now the match scheduled months after the Pahalgam attack, and war veterans opposed the match between India and Pakistan. Well, it's Saurav Ganguly saying this is against terror, but sports must go on. And India's great escape in Manchester, the mammoth match-saving partnership. Now this was a drama that unfolded in Manchester, a tussle over a draw. Let's get you the very latest. Our top story here, of course, is going to be that debate that's going to start in the Parliament, the 60-hour debate on Operation Sindoor and the Pahalgam attacks. And to get more on this, we have Mare Shakil, our senior executive editor, as well as Basa Venugopal will be joining us as well. Mare, over to you. What all is expected after that complete washout of the first week of the monsoon session? A lot riding on the next 16 hours.
Yes, so it's very crucial that this discussion is taking place inside Parliament. Remember, when Prime Minister Modi had famously said soon after the Pahalgam terror attack that this is about tracing, tracking and neutralizing terrorists till the end of the earth. Those were his famous words, which he had said from Bihar. He actually meant that. This was about political intent, and that's what he displayed. Operation Sindoor wrote a new chapter in India's counter-terrorism offensive. It sent a message that when it comes to India's sovereignty, India is capable of defending its territories. India is capable of ensuring that when it is about its citizens, it is able to avenge the death of those who lost their lives in Pahalgam. It was, of course, Prime Minister said that Operation Sindoor is ongoing. But post that, a number of questions were raised by opposition parties. Because of the statements that came also from within the military establishment, and that raised questions about the loss that has been suffered on India's side. What should we be seeing today? I have first Major General Sanjay Mestron joining us here at Vijay Chowk. Major General Mestron, thank you so much for joining us. But first up, let me bring in Aishwarya Jain, who joins us to give you a sense of what should we be expecting today. A 16-hour-long discussion which is likely to take place in the Lok Sabha, a 16-hour-long debate which will be taking place also in the Rajya Sabha. It is the Defence Minister who will be opening the discussion on behalf of the government. But first up, Aishwarya, what should we be expecting the list of speakers?
Well, it's the biggest debate in the Parliament on national security, and it will be initiated by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. It was, the opposition parties who demanded in the all-party meeting that there should be a discussion on Operation Sindoor and the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack, to which the government agreed. The opposition's demand was a statement from the Prime Minister. There were several concerns that had been raised by the opposition parties, including why there was intelligence failure on the first point as far as the Pahalgam terror attack is concerned, why not the terrorist had been nabbed till yet, and why there had been repeated claims that had been made by the United States President Donald Trump as he announced the mediation between India and Pakistan. Kiren Rijiju, Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister after the BAC, stated that it is India and Pakistan DGMO level talks, and only after that there was an announcement, a bilateral understanding between the two countries to stop the fire exchange at land, sea and air as well. But today it's a big day. We have been told, as far as sources are concerned, that it would be Defence Minister who would be initiating the debate at 12 noon, followed by Gaurav Gogoi from the India bloc, who would be initiating from the opposition side. Prime Minister will be intervening tomorrow, is what we have been told. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi would be speaking tomorrow. A 16 hours of debate panning today and tomorrow in the Lok Sabha, followed by Rajya Sabha, which will start from tomorrow, and that will be also a 16 hours debate there as well. But prominent leaders from the opposition parties, we have been told Priyanka Gandhi, Akhilesh Yadav, Rajiv Rai, Kani Mohi and other senior leaders had been given a chance from the opposition side to speak as well. Definitely the opposition will try to corner the government on different parts, but a very important piece of information that we have also got is that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is in full preparation, and he had taken a brief earlier from the CDS, Tri-Service Chiefs, and also, the NSA as well. And with full preparations, the government will be presenting its case in the Lok Sabha.
All right, Aishwarya, thank you for that quick update. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister said in Tamil Nadu yesterday. He essentially set the tone for what is going to be a sharp discussion on Operation Sindoor, a military offensive, a counter-offensive which actually set the tone for how events will be playing out whenever India is under attack. Let's listen into the Prime Minister.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने दिखा दिया है कि भारत के दुश्मनों के लिए, आतंकवादियों के लिए अब कोई ठिकाना सुरक्षित नहीं है। और आज जब मैं हेलीपैड से यहां आ रहा था, 3-4 किलोमीटर का रास्ता काटते हुए, और अचानक मैंने देखा एक बड़ा रोड शो बन गया और हर एक के मुंह से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का जय जयकार हो रहा था। ये पूरे देश में ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने एक नई चेतना जगाई है, नया आत्मविश्वास पैदा किया है और दुनिया को भी भारत की शक्ति को स्वीकार करना पड़ रहा है। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने दिखा दिया है कि भारत के दुश्मनों के लिए, आतंकवादियों के लिए अब कोई ठिकाना सुरक्षित नहीं है। और आज जब मैं हेलीपैड से यहां आ रहा था, 3-4 किलोमीटर का रास्ता काटते हुए, और अचानक मैंने देखा एक बड़ा रोड शो बन गया और हर एक के मुंह से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का जय जयकार हो रहा था। ये पूरे देश में ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने एक नई चेतना जगाई है, नया आत्मविश्वास पैदा किया है और दुनिया को भी भारत की शक्ति को स्वीकार करना पड़ रहा है।
You heard the Prime Minister. Now let's bring in one of the opposition leaders, Manikam Tagore. Congress MP is joining us this morning. Mr. Tagore, appreciate your time here on NDTV. Who all should we be expecting from the Congress party to intervene in this discussion, which is certainly of very crucial nature, because we might get a lot of course, we heard after the Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister addressed the nation and give details of the success of Operation Sindoor. What is it that the opposition wishes to know from the Treasury benches on this?
Good morning. This is an important day for us, and today morning India Alliance is meeting in the morning, and because there are two major issues which the opposition parties has raised in the BAC. One was the discussion on Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor and aftermath, and then second was the SIR issue, which is very critical for the democratic process in India itself. The government has not given a date, but now it has been listed today as the date for the discussion on Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor. Therefore, we are very clear that we want both the issues to be discussed in Parliament, and India Alliance will participate in those discussions. And we are very clear that the India Alliance is together on both the issues on the Pahalgam failure as well as the Operation Sindoor aftermath, and then the SIR issue. Today, the Congress Party's lead speakers will be decided, and as reported by your colleague, Deputy Leader Gaurav Gogoi will be the lead speaker from the Congress Party, and there are 3-4 speakers who will be speaking today, and then the Leader of Opposition will intervene tomorrow. This is the plan. We are run through it, and other parties will decide their own speakers. Our India Alliance partners like Samajwadi, DMK, and other friends will have their speakers decided. And we hope that the government replies to the discussion, answers to the questions which has been very important for us, and we all stand with the Air Force and those army. Indian Army and other forces who were assisted the Air Force. But there are some critical questions which, starting from the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir who has started, the intelligence failure was a major issue. Then the policy failure of the Union government from the external affairs, that we made Pakistan and China closer, too much closer for the past few years. And then the sudden ceasefire call of Mr. Trump, and the sudden ourselves being surrendered to Mr. Trump's call. These are all the important issues which we will be asking the questions, and we hope that the discussion is decent and the discussion is answered by the ministers. They answer the questions which we are asking.
Mr. Tagore, of course, what we do know is that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be opening this discussion, which is likely to begin in the Lok Sabha around 2 p.m. One sense certainly is, and it has been acknowledged by multiple experts all over the world, that this Operation Sindoor perhaps reshaped what would be future response of India in case of a terror attack. Would you agree that the regional perception has changed and India has managed to send this message that this is going to be the new doctrine going ahead?
We need to understand that we are having two neighbors who are against us from the beginning itself, and how we are going to handle them is a long-term policy for us, and India has followed a different policy all along. And what we face this time, there is 3-4 years time, is an important question. The Chinese drones were used by the Pakistanis. The question is that how close we had made this both the neighbors by our wrong policies. And we all know that, as you from the military point of view, we acknowledge that the method of warfare has changed, and we need to understand that the army as well as the Air Force and the naval, all the three forces will work together to protect our borders. And this kind of incidents, whenever it happens, attacks on us by the terrorist organizations which are supported by the Pakistan, we all are in same line with it. But our policy matter. We are fumbling with our policy. We are making Pakistan and China closer because of our policy failures, and we are coming under the pressure of the United States whenever they want to make us to be pressurized on this kind of incidents. That's the question we wanted to ask the government. Government has to answer it, not only celebrate the victory of our Air Force. Exemplary job in their duty.
Mr. Tagore, before I let you go, a word on 23 minutes, because this entire operation was just for 23 minutes, which had a combination of Akash surface-to-air missiles, drones, long-range strike weapons such as BrahMos and Scalp. So it certainly showed the military prowess. But, on that front, would you acknowledge that when it comes to India's military supremacy, that has been established through this Operation Sindoor, while all those questions regarding politics and also the policy, that remains, that will be, of course, asked by the opposition, and we are hoping that the Treasury benches will respond.
We all stand with the armed forces and particularly the Air Force operation on the front. And we all stood with that operations. We all celebrate that operations. But we can't say thing that it is one day. We can just move on it. Suddenly that operation was stopped. Why we stopped? That's also very, very important questions. Who stopped it? Why we stopped it? Who forced us to stop it? These are all the questions also. We acknowledge and celebrate the actions of the Air Force. We acknowledge the actions of our army. We acknowledge the operations of our DRDO scientists who had put years of service to build these systems. We acknowledge all of their hard work. But the policy also fumbles. Why we failed in our policy to carry on with this operation? Suddenly we stopped it because somebody else tweeted in their Twitter handle, and President of U.S. has claimed 25 times that he has involved in the ceasefire, and our Prime Minister has never answered. Will he answer in the Parliament now? Then we ask the same question to him.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning, Manikam Tagore, the Member of Parliament of the Congress Party. Of course, we'll be hearing your speech as well if you decide to speak in Parliament, Mr. Tagore. Let me bring in Major General Sanjay Mestron, who's joining us. General Mestron, the question certainly would be, what are these questions that need answers which should come from the government with regards to this operation? Would you say that there are those military, strategic details which cannot come out on a platform, even if it is a Parliament of India?
Good morning, Maria. Very true. Firstly, what should come out? See, the whole question is, what are we discussing? I think the whole world has seen very, very clearly how India executed or planned and executed Operation Sindoor. I think it was a brilliant success, and I would say, Maria, that in the recent history, since 21, there have been, every year there has been a war. 21, Afghanistan invaded the United States and the Afghan government there, the Afghan National Army. In 22, the Russia-Ukraine war happened. And in 23, the Israel-Hamas war happened. And 24, Israel and Iran and all the proxies came into full swing. So every year there has been a war. In 25, we have had the Op Sindoor. If you compare all these wars, rest of the wars are continuing. And what success has been achieved, it's a big question mark. In the case of Op Sindoor, I think it was a most spectacular operation, military operation. It needs to be studied by the whole world. And I think now a lot of people are drawing lessons. So your question that should strategic issues be discussed, the answer is in very uncertain terms, no. Strategic issues, because we are not here to serve the interest of the enemy. We are here to serve the interest of the nation. And military plans are always top secret. They are only between the planners and the executioners. And when I say executioners, even for example, the battalion commander, he is only given a particular task, but he is not aware about the overall operation. So let's be very clear. Yes, certain broader issues can be discussed, like what was the role of President Trump, that can be discussed. But what are the military losses? Why it has happened, what were the tactics, what was the strategy, I think that should not be discussed in an open forum.
But sir, we have seen statements being made by those who are part of the military establishment of jets being downed. All that has come out in the public domain. Do you think that the government, how can the government not really speak about it on the floor of the House?
See, firstly, when the jets are down, let's be very clear, in any conflict, that's why I gave you these four major conflicts in the world. Both sides or the opposing forces are suffering losses. But at what cost? Let's talk about the Indian cost. Have we suffered any of our pilots' casualty? The answer is no, not at all. Even if an aircraft or two aircrafts have gone down, I am not aware how many have gone down. So we have to analyze the reasons, and that reasons, as mentioned by the CDS, was very, very clear that we have learned from our mistakes. Some tactical lessons have been drawn, and thereafter, on 8th, 9th, 10th, no military aircraft, nothing has been damaged, and no military infrastructure has been damaged. So therefore, this is the responsibility of the armed forces to draw lessons, not to focus why it happened, how it happened. Yes, that will be focused by the armed forces. So this should not become a major issue. Russia-Ukraine war, Moscow was sunk. So many huge attacks have happened. Their bombers have been destroyed all over the country, the Russian bombers, including in the depth. So the nation, look at the way the Hamas struck at Israel. So all these things, losses have to be there. Military conflict means losses, and both sides. The thing is, who's been successful? The outcome, the end state matters. And till date, these two major wars which are going out, the end state has not come out. So in our case, the end state came out very, very clearly, and therefore now a new norm has been established, and in that we are very, very clear. Any act of future terrorism will be taken as an act of war. So the question that to debate on the how many aircraft down and why they went down, why, no one is entitled to know. Otherwise, the enemy will exploit it.
Okay.
So we are very, very clear. And if they are down, tomorrow casualties happen in Kargil.